In an ordinary observation, researchers in the Scottish Highlands watched a hare become invisible without moving a single muscle. The predator approaching it circled around 3 times, passed by within inches, and left. The hare never moved. This shouldn't be possible. Freezing creates panic, breath changes, and small twitches. But wild hares don't panic. Dr. Klaus Hackländer from the University of Veterinary Medicine, Vienna, calls this a physiological impossibility that rewrites the predator-prey relationship. Most prey animals run when they sense danger. Deer trust their speed. So what about the European hare? While fully conscious, it can remain motionless for up to 40 minutes, while its heart rate drops to near hibernation levels. This creature on your screen is doing what biologists call adaptive immobility, a state that shouldn't exist in a prey animal. Tonight we'll examine how the European hare perfected the art of invisible concealment and why science still can't explain this evolutionary paradox. If this mysterious survival strategy fascinates you as much as it does me, don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments where you're watching from, what time it is there, and what surprises you most about the wild hare. You're the reason we keep discovering nature's secrets. Thanks for being here. First, let's note that researchers don't fully agree on the findings we'll be discussing. Some information is not definitive. Now let's slowly dive into how these seemingly defenseless rabbits quietly defy nature's rules to accomplish the impossible. That observation in the Scottish Highlands wasn't a one-time occurrence. Researchers documented 47 similar encounters across Europe that same year. Hares freezing while predators circled within touching distance. No movement, no panic. Most prey species run when they sense danger. Deer bolt at the first snap of a twig. Rabbits dart for their underground burrows at the hint of a shadow. Movement equals survival in the animal kingdom. But here we have a creature that consciously chooses the opposite strategy. When a fox approaches, the European hare doesn't flee, it freezes, and somehow it works. Dr. Klaus Hackländer spent 3 years studying this behavior at the University of Veterinary Medicine, Vienna. His team observed over 200 interactions between hares and predators. What they found challenges everything we thought we knew about predator-prey relationships. The hares maintained their frozen posture for an average of 32 minutes. The fox was circling just a few yards away from the hare. It had caught the scent of prey, but there was no prey. No movement, no sound of breathing. The fox wandered off confused. During this time, the hare had remained motionless for 45 minutes. Its heart rate had dropped to levels seen during deep sleep. Think about that for a moment. You're hiking through woods at dusk. Something moves in the shadows ahead. Your pulse spikes instantly. You panic, your breathing quickens, your muscles tense. That's normal. Prey animals are supposed to react this way, but hares override this entire system. While fully conscious and aware of the threat, they slow their physiology to near hibernation levels. This mechanism shouldn't exist. When faced with danger, heart rate accelerates. Blood pressure rises, muscles prepare for explosive action. This is the fight or flight response, and it's widespread among mammals. We see it everywhere from mice to elephants. The body's relaxation system only takes control during rest and digestion, when danger is absent. European hares activate both systems simultaneously. When stressed, the body's alarm system kicks in quickly and pumps adrenaline. This chemical keeps them alert and ready. The relaxation system slows their heart rate and suppresses movement. This dual activation creates what researchers call adaptive immobility, a state that theoretically shouldn't be possible in a conscious prey animal. But the invisibility isn't just about staying still. Not moving is only half the equation. If the hare is visually detectable, freezing for 45 minutes makes no sense. And hare fur evolved specifically for this purpose. The coat isn't a uniform color. Each hair shaft has a brown base, gray in the middle, black at the tip. When these hairs overlap, they create a mottled pattern that matches the colors of grasslands and forest edges. Rich vegetation also greatly supports the hare's protection from predators. The effect of color matching is remarkable. Under direct sunlight, hares appear slightly golden brown, blending with dried grass. In shade, the darker hairs dominate, making them nearly invisible against their surroundings. This adaptive coloration provides a major advantage. While Arctic hares must molt every season, the European hare can camouflage in different environments year-round with a single coat, especially in farmland and woodland edges. But here's where the mystery deepens. Camouflage explains why a motionless hare is hard to see. It doesn't explain why predators fail to detect movement when the hare breathes. Every mammal must respire. The body slows to hibernation levels, but that doesn't mean complete zero. Lungs expand and contract. The rib cage moves. Fur shifts. These micro movements should be visible at close range, especially to predators who rely on detecting motion. And this concealment effort isn't limited to breathing alone. The heart rate deceleration is equally sophisticated. At rest, a European hare's heart beats approximately 120 times per minute. During freezing, this drops to 45 beats per minute. That's a 60% reduction. For comparison, athletes in peak condition might achieve a 30% reduction through intensive training. Hares do this instantaneously when a predator appears. Lower heart rate means reduced blood flow. Less blood flow means fewer visible pulse points. Predators can detect the jugular pulse in some prey animals at close range. Hares eliminate this signal. The bradycardia also reduces metabolic demand, allowing them to maintain the frozen posture longer without muscle fatigue. But of course, the hare's strategy for protection from predators isn't just about freezing. They have many other advanced protective behaviors. Why? Because hares in the wild are prey to many predators, most notably the red fox. Being targeted by so many predators, hares survive not only by freezing, but also with incredible running speed. Observations show that when disturbed in the wild, hares immediately prepare to run, then can flee non-stop for 2,000 feet. Now imagine you're the hare. A fox enters your field of vision. In that instant, you make a decision: run or freeze. If you run, the fox sees movement immediately and gives chase. At 43 miles per hour, you're fast, but foxes reach 31 miles per hour and have better endurance. The chase might last 60 seconds, maybe 90. Eventually, fatigue wins and the fox closes distance. But if you freeze, something different happens. The fox has other concerns. It's hunting, yes, but it's also watching for larger predators. It's tracking scent trails. It's conserving energy. If it doesn't see movement, it often continues past without detailed investigation. The frozen hare becomes part of the landscape, just another patch of brown-grey vegetation. The fox moves on. This is adaptive immobility, a calculated risk based on probability. Studies show that freezing succeeds in 73% of close encounters with foxes. Running succeeds in only 41% of chases. The math favors stillness. Evolution reinforced this behavior over thousands of generations because hares who froze survived more often than hares who ran. But the strategy has limitations. If the predator already has visual lock, freezing fails. Once a fox sees the hare and identifies it as prey, Staying still just makes the catch easier. The transition point is critical. Hares must freeze before the predator fixes on them, because once predators spot prey, they don't look away. Distance from the predator and availability of escape routes play an important role in the hare's decision to freeze or not. Field observations show that hares assess this decision in under 2 seconds. See predator, evaluate distance and attention, freeze or run. And over thousands of years, hares who made the right choice between freezing and running survived more often. Another limitation is that not all hares have the ability to freeze. Some are naturally more inclined to freeze, while others almost never respond by freezing. Weather changes the equation. In heavy rain, scent disperses quickly and hearing range decreases for predators. Freezing becomes more effective because foxes rely more heavily on vision, and rain-dampened fur makes camouflage even better. But in fog, where visibility drops for both species, hares run more often. They can't see the predator clearly enough to gauge when to freeze. And then there are the predators who hunt differently. Foxes primarily use sight and sound. Freezing works against them. But badgers hunt partially by scent. A frozen hare still smells like prey. Raptors hunt from above with exceptional vision. The mottled camouflage pattern designed for ground-level predators doesn't work as well from aerial perspectives. Barn owls detect motion, but also hear heartbeats. That slowed heart rate becomes an advantage here, but the owl's dish-shaped face still captures every sound. This is why adaptive immobility isn't absolute. It's just one survival option. Hares don't freeze every time. They assess the situation. For instance, while low vegetation increases the likelihood of being detected by a predator, it also allows the hare to spot the predator earlier and gain more time to escape. So the decision changes based on the environment. Open ground with nowhere to hide, freeze and trust camouflage, thick cover nearby, sprint for concealment, predator already running at you, then evasive maneuvers become the only option. The remarkable part is the speed of this assessment and the physiological flexibility hares have to execute either strategy instantly. But there's another factor we haven't addressed yet. How do hares know when to freeze in the first place? How do they detect the fox before the fox detects them? That requires solving a different problem entirely. You can master the art of invisibility, perfect the control of breath and heartbeat, develop flawless camouflage. None of it matters if you don't know danger is approaching. The European hare needs an early warning system, something that gives it those critical 2 seconds to make the freeze or flight decision, something that detects predators at distance, in darkness, through cover. And hares have exactly that system, but it's not their eyes, despite their wide field of vision. It's not their sense of smell, though that's quite good. The system that saves hares from predators is something far more sophisticated, something that operates in complete silence and near total darkness, something that gives them a 360-degree detection range without moving their head. And the key to this entire mechanism is the ears. The freezing strategy buys time, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. But this only works if the hare can detect approaching danger before the predator locks eyes on it. That requires detection from a distance. Early warning while there's still time to make the freeze or run decision. European hares solve this problem with one of the most advanced threat detection systems in the mammal world. Not their eyes, though their field of vision is excellent. Not their noses either, though their sense of smell isn't bad. Their ears detect danger. And what these ears do is something most prey animals can't accomplish. They provide complete environmental awareness without requiring head movement. Watch a hare in an open field at dusk. The body stays motionless, the head doesn't turn, but the ears rotate independently like radar antennas scanning for signals. Left ear facing north, right ear facing southeast, both tracking different areas simultaneously. This independent movement creates a broad perception zone covering the entire area around the animal. Each ear is roughly 4 inches long. For an animal weighing only 7 to 11 pounds, this is quite large. This size isn't decorative. The large ear structures function as sound collectors, simple looking from the outside but channeling sound to the deeper parts of the ear. They act as gatherers. Think of them as biological antennas collecting distant signals. The hearing range is an interesting point. Humans perceive frequencies between 64 and 23,000 Hz. The range where we hear best is around 3,000 Hz, where speech occurs. So what about European hares? Studies on their hearing ability show they can detect sounds across a very wide frequency range, especially in the range where predators make sounds. They can hear sounds too low for us to detect and perceive frequencies nearly double our upper limit. But here's what makes this extraordinary for survival. Most predators produce sounds in specific frequency ranges. Foxes moving through grass generate low-frequency rustles between 500 and 2,000 Hz. Their breathing creates a subtle hum near 1,500 Hz. Their footfalls on soil produce vibrations between 1 and 3,000 Hz. All of these fit comfortably within the hare's optimal detection range. The real test is with aerial predators. Barn owls represent the ultimate stealth hunter. Their wing feathers have evolved special structures that reduce flight sounds to nearly undetectable levels. On a previous journey, we talked about how these wings accomplish the impossible silence. This should make owls invisible to prey. Mice might not hear them until they're overhead. Rats can't detect their approach in darkness, but hares work differently. Their hearing captures even low frequencies below 1,000 Hz, those faint wing sounds. The sounds owls can't suppress become signals that save hares' lives. Field observations in Germany documented this. Researchers tracked 17 barn owl attacks on European hares over 2 breeding seasons. The hares detected the owls before the attack in 12 cases. They responded by freezing or running depending on distance and cover. 4 of the 5 cases where detection failed resulted in successful predation. The connection is clear. Hearing the owl means survival. Missing the sound means death. Now imagine yourself as a hare again, 40 minutes past sunset, visibility dropping fast. You're feeding in a meadow 100 feet from the forest edge. Suddenly your left ear catches a sound, very faint, very low, around 800 Hz, repeating rhythmically. 3 repetitions per second. Estimating distance from sound level alone is difficult, but the signal is still very weak. Your brain processes this in milliseconds. Rhythmic, low-frequency sound. 3 per second matches the wing beat frequency of large birds. The ear analyzes the signal's frequency structure. Estimates approximate location, about 40 yards, maybe more. Should you freeze now or wait? If you freeze immediately but the owl is still far away, you might stay in place for several minutes and waste feeding time while the bird hunts elsewhere. But if you wait too long and the owl approaches, freezing doesn't work once the predator has visual confirmation. This is the critical calculation hares make dozens of times every night. The ear provides the data, the brain interprets the threat, the decision determines survival, and all of it happens in less than 2 seconds from initial sound detection to action. This is where the level differences between ears come into play. As the predator approaches, one ear hears the sound more strongly than the other. With this, the hare knows whether it has time or not. To overcome this, predators try to approach the hare from its weak point. Hares solve this through constant scanning. While one ear points right, the other turns left. 10 different muscles in each ear track the environment simultaneously. They rarely align both ears in the same direction unless investigating a close threat. The muscles controlling this movement are highly developed. A hare can direct one ear straight back while focusing the other forward, or rotate both in opposite directions, or keep one fixed while rotating the other. Movement speed changes according to threat assessment. Casual scanning happens slowly. A full rotation takes 15 to 20 seconds. But when a suspicious sound triggers attention, rotation speed increases dramatically. The ear snaps toward the sound source in less than half a second. This rapid targeting helps pinpoint the exact location before the predator moves. But detecting sound is only half the problem. Determining where the sound comes from is equally important. A fox 40 yards away doesn't have the same threat level as a fox 16 feet away. Hares need to estimate not just direction, but distance, and this is even more important for a constantly hunted animal like the hare. They solve this by using both ears simultaneously. Sound reaches the near ear slightly before the far ear. We're talking about a microsecond difference. The brain detects this delay and calculates direction. Longer delays indicate the sound is coming directly from the right or left. Shorter delays indicate the source is front or back. Equal arrival times signal position straight ahead or straight behind. Studies with controlled sound sources confirmed this. The brain could flawlessly detect differences between sounds reaching the two ears. At distances up to 200 feet, it estimated sound within 15 degrees of the true location. This is enough precision to determine whether an approaching predator will pass nearby or come directly overhead. The truly impressive part is this: all this processing is largely unconscious. The hare doesn't think about calculating time delays or intensity differences. The brain's hearing processing section does this automatically. The conscious mind only receives the final output, threat, at 100 feet, approaching from the southeast, medium speed. Actually, it's the same for us. When a notification sound comes from your phone, you know which app it is when you hear it. You don't need to think about whether it's a message or a video notification. The hare's sound processing system works the same way. This allows the hare to focus on decision instead of detection. Should I freeze? Should I run? Should I continue feeding because the threat isn't approaching? The ear system provides clean data. The brain makes tactical choices. Weather conditions complicate everything. Wind generates noise across multiple frequency ranges. Rustling vegetation produces sounds between 1,000 and 4,000 hertz. Stronger winds create low-frequency rumbles below 500 hertz. But the real challenge comes from predators that can catch hares despite all these systems. Some predators, like the Iberian lynx, are so effective that even when they reach near extinction, they manage to come back. In our next video, we'll discover how the Iberian lynx made an incredible comeback while facing extinction. But now let's get back to hares. Hares change their ear positioning during wind. Instead of broad scanning, they focus both ears toward the direction the wind is coming from. When wind comes from behind, approaching. Predators are easier to hear because their sounds carry farther. Predators approaching from the wind direction are harder to hear, but the hare compensates by increasing visual scanning in that direction. Rain creates different problems. Water droplets hitting vegetation produce noise at nearly all frequencies. Heavy rain can reduce detection range by 60 to 70%. Hares respond to this by moving to denser thickets where upper vegetation cuts the rain sounds. They also increase visual scanning frequency because auditory detection becomes unreliable. But quiet nights with little wind provide the best conditions. Researchers took measurements with microphones placed in the hare's ear depths. On quiet nights, predator detection range was seen to extend beyond 250 feet. The hare can hear a fox creeping through grass in the dark at distances where visual identification is impossible. This provides enough warning time to make careful decisions instead of panicking. The question researchers debated for years was about frequency discrimination. We know hares detect broad frequency ranges, but can they distinguish similar sounds? Can they tell apart a fox moving through grass from a deer moving through the same grass? Both create rustles in similar frequency bands. The answer is most likely yes. Hares appear able to distinguish sounds in similar frequencies. Foxes create irregular noise patterns, pausing frequently to listen. Deer produce more consistent sounds while grazing. Hares seem to recognize these rhythmic differences and respond accordingly. This shows the auditory system doesn't just process frequency and intensity, it looks at the rhythm of sounds, the gaps between sounds, the cadence of repetition, the duration of silences between noise events. All of these are incorporated into threat assessment. But there's a vulnerability in this incredible system. The ears provide global coverage. They detect across massive frequency ranges. They pinpoint location with extraordinary accuracy, but they only work in the open, only when the hare is outside. Predators come from the air, they come from the ground, but they can't enter underground. And that's exactly why hares built half their world below ground. An engineering marvel, a structure where some hare colonies live in the same underground tunnel cities for generations. Now let's go below the soil to the hare's true home. Most people assume hares live like their rabbit cousins. Underground warrens with multiple entrances, tunnel networks stretching dozens of yards, chambers for nesting, sleeping, escaping. The image of rabbits disappearing into holes is so common that we extend it to all lagomorphs. European rabbits build elaborate underground cities. Some warrens cover more than 2 acres with tunnels reaching 10 feet deep and 150 feet long. Multiple families sharing interconnected passages, escape routes leading in every direction. But European hares don't build warrens, they don't dig tunnels, they don't live underground at all. They create something called a form, a shallow depression scraped into soil or vegetation, usually about 4 inches deep, roughly 16 inches long by 8 inches wide, just large enough for one hare to crouch inside with its body pressed low. That's it. No tunnels, no chambers, no underground protection. The hare lives its entire life on the surface. This seems like a terrible evolutionary choice. Rabbits have the right idea. Underground shelters provide protection from weather. They hide occupants from aerial predators. They offer escape routes when foxes come hunting. Multiple entrances mean you're never trapped. The warren becomes a fortress that dramatically improves survival odds. Yet hares abandoned this strategy millions of years ago. Or more accurately, they never adopted it. Hares and rabbits split from a common ancestor roughly 12 million years ago. The rabbit lineage evolved towards social burrowing. The hare lineage went the opposite direction. Solitary surface dwelling, no permanent shelter, just temporary forms scattered across their territory. The form itself barely qualifies as construction. The hare doesn't gather materials, it doesn't dig out soil and transport it elsewhere. It simply scrapes away vegetation and presses its body into the ground, creating a shallow bowl shape through repeated use. Over several nights, the depression deepens slightly as the hare shifts position. The surrounding vegetation gets compressed. Dead grass and leaves settle into the depression, providing minimal insulation. Location matters more than construction. Hares choose sites carefully, usually near tall grass, scattered rocks, fallen logs, or shrub bases. The form needs surrounding cover that breaks up the hare's outline when it's lying inside. But the cover can't be so thick that it blocks sightlines. Hares need to see approaching threats while remaining partially concealed. The form is temporary. A hare might use the same depression for 3 or 4 days, then abandon it for a new location. Sometimes it returns to old forms. Sometimes it creates fresh ones. There's no pattern, no fixed home base. The hare shifts constantly across its territory, never staying in one place long enough to establish a predictable routine that predators can exploit. Think about what this means. You're a hare resting in your form. It's mid-afternoon. You've been lying here for 6 hours digesting last night's forage. Your form is on a slight rise overlooking open grassland. Tall grass surrounds you on 3 sides. You can see approximately 160 feet in most directions. A fox appears at the field edge. You see it immediately. The fox doesn't see you yet. It's hunting by scent, nose to the ground, quartering back and forth across the field, moving your direction but not directly at you. What do? If you were a rabbit in a warren, the answer is obvious. Retreat underground. The fox can't follow. You have multiple escape tunnels if it tries to dig. But you're a hare. You have a 4-inch depression. No tunnel, no escape route. Just shallow cover on open ground. This is the vulnerability of form living. The shelter provides minimal protection. It's useful for blocking wind. It offers slight concealment from distant observers, but it becomes useless once a predator gets close. At that point, the form transforms from shelter into trap. You're pressed low in a depression with limited mobility. Standing up and running from a crouched position takes precious fractions of a second. Time the fox uses to close distance. So why did hares evolve this way? Why not dig warrens like rabbits? The answer relates to feeding strategy. Rabbits are central place foragers. They leave the warren to feed, but they never go far. They graze near the burrow entrances, always within sprinting distance of safety. This limits their feeding range but provides security. If threatened, they're home in seconds. Hares are range foragers. They travel widely while feeding, covering several miles each night. They eat specific plants at specific growth stages, moving between patches as vegetation matures or gets depleted. This requires mobility. A fixed burrow location would force them to travel long distances back to shelter each morning. The energy cost becomes prohibitive. The form strategy solves this problem. Wherever the hare finishes feeding, it creates a temporary form nearby. No need to travel back to a fixed location, no energy wasted commuting between feeding grounds and home base. The hare simply stops, finds suitable cover, scrapes a shallow depression, and rests there until evening. This flexibility also provides security advantages that aren't immediately obvious. Predators learn burrow locations. Foxes visit rabbit warrens regularly, hoping to catch individuals entering or leaving. The warren becomes a predictable ambush site, but hares never sleep in the same form twice in a row. Even if a fox finds a form, the hare won't be there tomorrow. This unpredictability makes systematic hunting much harder. The shallow depth actually helps detection rather than hindering it. In a burrow, underground rabbits can't see or hear surface threats until they emerge from tunnel entrances, but hares in forms remain fully exposed to the environment. Their ears continue monitoring for sounds. Their eyes scan continuously. The form provides minimal concealment while maintaining full sensory awareness. Weather changes the equation significantly. Forms work well in dry conditions. Grass and surrounding vegetation block wind. The depression provides modest insulation, but heavy rain makes forms nearly useless. Water pools in the depression. The hare gets soaked. There's no drainage, no roof, no protection from above. Hares respond by shifting form locations during rain. They move under denser vegetation, tree canopies, thick shrub clusters, rocky overhangs, anywhere that blocks rainfall while still providing visibility. These emergency shelters are used only during severe weather, then abandoned when conditions improve. Winter brings different problems. Snow accumulation can actually improve form functionality. The hare scrapes down to ground level, then snow piles around the depression's edges, creating walls that block wind. The snow insulates better than grass. Some hares in northern ranges deliberately build snow forms, excavating shallow caves in drifts. These provide real shelter, sometimes lasting several weeks if conditions remain cold. But spring thaw creates danger. The form floods. Frozen ground underneath prevents drainage. The hare must abandon the form and find new shelter while still wet and cold. This transition period coincides with breeding season, when hares face increased stress from both environmental and social pressures. Breeding females face a unique problem. They need forms for giving birth, but leverets are born fully furred with eyes open. They're mobile within hours. The form barely functions as a nest. The mother scrapes a slightly larger depression, gives birth, nurses the leverets once, then often leaves them. She returns each night to nurse again, but the leverets spend most of their first week alone in the form. This seems insanely risky. Helpless young left exposed on the surface, but rabbit warrens have their own problems. Underground spaces accumulate parasites. Disease spreads quickly in enclosed chambers. Ventilation is poor. Leverets born in warrens face high mortality from illness, even when protected from predators. Hare leverets in forms have better air circulation, lower disease exposure, and they're not actually helpless. They can run within 12 hours of birth. If threatened, they scatter in different directions, making it difficult for predators to catch multiple individuals. This immediate mobility outweighs the lack of physical shelter. The form strategy works because hares evolved other adaptations to compensate for lack of underground protection. The exceptional hearing we discussed earlier becomes essential when you can't retreat to a burrow. The freezing behavior provides concealment when you lack physical cover. The camouflage patterns match surface vegetation rather than tunnel walls. Everything connects. The hare's entire survival system is built around surface dwelling. Ears detect threats early. Freezing response delays detection. Camouflage provides concealment. Forms offer minimal shelter while maintaining awareness. It's a complete package designed for a specific lifestyle. But this package has a fundamental limitation. When the system fails, when the predator detects the hare, despite all these adaptations, the form offers no protection. The hare must abandon the shallow depression and run, and that's when the final element of the survival system activates. the element that makes hares genuinely dangerous to catch even in open ground. Speed, not just running fast, that's obvious, every prey animal runs. But hares don't just run, they turn speed into something unpredictable, something that confuses predators even after visual contact is established. They invented an escape tactic that shouldn't work against faster predators, but does, and we're about to discover why zigzag running defeats straight-line speed. When the form offers no protection, when freezing fails, when the predator closes distance, despite perfect camouflage, the hare shifts to its final defense. Speed, but not the kind of speed you might expect. A red fox can run 30 miles per hour. A hare reaches 43 miles per hour at top speed. The math seems simple, the hare is faster. It should escape every time. But the reality is more complicated. Speed alone doesn't determine the outcome of all these chases. The fox has endurance. It can maintain 25 miles per hour for several minutes. Its cardiovascular system evolved for sustained pursuit. Its muscles process oxygen efficiently during extended runs. The fox doesn't need to catch the hare in the first 10 seconds. It just needs to keep the hare in sight long enough for fatigue to take over. The hare operates differently. 43 miles per hour represents maximum output, peak performance that burns through energy reserves rapidly. The hare can hold this speed for maybe 60 seconds, perhaps 90 if conditions are perfect. After that, the muscles start failing. Lactic acid builds up, the stride shortens, speed drops. So we have a sprinter being chased by a distance runner. If this were a straight line race across open ground, the fox would eventually win. The hare would hit maximum speed, maintain it briefly, then slow down as exhaustion set in. The fox would close the gap steadily, maintaining its cruising speed until the hare could no longer sustain its sprint. But hares don't run in straight lines, they zigzag, and this changes everything. Picture an open meadow at dawn, a hare feeding near the edge. A fox emerges from the tree line 200 feet away. The hare sees it immediately. Ears detect the movement first, then eyes confirm the threat. The fox breaks into a run. The hare waits 1 more second, assessing trajectory and distance, then explodes into motion. The first 3 bounds are straight. The hare accelerates from standstill to 30 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. The powerful hind legs launch the body forward with each stride. The fox is running now, closing the distance, but the hare is pulling ahead. Then the hare cuts left, not gradually, not a gentle curve, a sharp 90-degree turn executed mid-stride. The fox overshoots. It has momentum. It's moving at 25 miles per hour and suddenly needs to change direction. The laws of physics don't allow instant turns at high speed. The fox slows down, plants its feet, pushes off in the new direction. This costs time, and maybe half a second, maybe a full second. The hare gains distance. It runs straight for another 16 feet, then cuts right. Another sharp turn. The fox adjusts again, losing more time. The gap widens. After 4 or 5 direction changes, the hare has opened a lead of 60 feet. The fox is still chasing, but the outcome is no longer certain. This pattern of sharp directional changes, this zigzag running, evolved specifically to exploit the physics of momentum. Every time the hare turns, it forces the predator to decelerate, change direction, and accelerate again. Each turn costs the predator speed and time. The cumulative effect over multiple turns creates distance that straight-line speed alone could never achieve. The hare's body is built for this strategy. The hind legs are disproportionately long compared to the front legs. This creates a unique center of gravity. When the hare plants its front feet and pivots, the rear legs swing around like a pendulum. The long leg length means the pivot point is far from the body's mass, allowing faster rotation. It's the same principle that makes a longer wrench more effective for turning bolts. The front paws grip the ground during turns, the claws dig in, the wrist joint absorbs lateral force. The hare literally pivots around its front feet, swinging the rear portion of its body in the new direction. This happens in fractions of a second, too fast for the human eye to track clearly, but the result is visible in the tracks left in soft soil, sharp angles, no gradual curves, each turn point marked by deeper front paw impressions where extra force was applied. The timing of these turns matters as much as the execution. If the hare turns too early, the fox anticipates and adjusts its angle before the turn happens. If the hare turns too late, the fox gets too close before the direction change, reducing the time gained. Optimal turning happens when the fox is committed to its current trajectory, but hasn't yet reached a distance where it can simply lunge and make contact. This requires the hare to process multiple variables simultaneously: distance to predator, predator's current speed, angle of approach, terrain ahead in multiple directions, ground firmness for traction, obstacles that might interfere with turning. All of this evaluated continuously while running at 40 miles per hour. The decision-making happens faster than conscious thought. The brain's motor cortex handles it automatically, the same way our hands catch a falling object before we consciously register the movement. Terrain influences success rate significantly. Zigzag running works best on firm, level ground where both animals have good traction. Muddy fields reduce effectiveness because the hare loses grip during pivot points. Rocky ground creates hazards where a misplaced foot can cause injury. Tall grass interferes with vision, making it harder for the hare to plan the next turn. Snow presents unique challenges. Fresh powder provides poor traction. The hare's large feet distribute weight, preventing it from sinking as deeply as the fox, which gives an advantage. But turning becomes difficult. The feet slide instead of gripping. Some hares adapt by reducing turn frequency and increasing turn radius, creating wider arcs instead of sharp angles. This reduces the time gained per turn but maintains better control. Slopes change the dynamics entirely. Running uphill favors the hare. The long hind legs provide powerful upward thrust. The fox struggles more with elevation gain. Downhill running favors the fox. The hare's center of gravity shifts forward, making sharp turns dangerous. A misjudged turn while descending can cause the hare to tumble. Foxes have better downhill control with their more balanced proportions. The energy cost of zigzag running is substantial. Each turn requires braking force followed by acceleration in a new direction. This uses more energy than maintaining constant velocity. The hare burns through its limited reserves faster when zigzagging. But the alternative, straight line running, guarantees eventual capture as endurance fails. The zigzag strategy trades energy efficiency for distance gained. It's calculated waste designed to create separation. Fatigue eventually limits turn frequency. After 30 seconds of maximum effort, the hare's muscles start accumulating metabolic waste. The turns become less sharp. The angles decrease from 90 degrees to 70 degrees to 50 degrees. Eventually, the running pattern shifts from zigzag to gentle curves. At this point, if the fox is still pursuing, the chase enters its final phase, but most chases don't reach that point. Fox observations in England documented 73 hunting attempts on European hares. Only 19 lasted longer than 30 seconds. Of those, only 6 resulted in captures. The zigzag strategy works. The fox abandons pursuit before the hare exhausts its reserves. The energy cost of following the zigzag pattern exceeds the potential caloric gain from catching the prey. This cost-benefit calculation happens unconsciously in the predator's brain. Hunger level, current energy reserves, availability of alternative prey, time of day all factor into the pursuit decision. A very hungry fox might chase longer. A fox that recently fed might abandon pursuit after just a few direction changes. The hare doesn't know which scenario applies. It zigzags regardless, forcing the fox to make the choice. Young hares execute zigzags less effectively than adults. The timing is off. Turns happen randomly rather than at optimal moments. Young foxes struggle to maintain pursuit of even young hares because the basic pattern still works. As both animals mature, the chase becomes more sophisticated. Adult foxes learn to anticipate turns. They adjust their angle before the hare pivots, trying to reduce the time lost. Adult hares counter by varying the pattern. Unpredictable timing, irregular spacing between turns, some turns sharp, others merely directional adjustments. The back and forth continues. The evolutionary arms race between pursuit and evasion. Neither strategy reaches perfection because perfect predation would drive the prey extinct, eliminating the food source. Neither does evasion become absolute because perfect escape would allow prey populations to explode, degrading the habitat. The balance holds somewhere in between, with foxes catching enough hares to survive, but not enough to threaten the population. But zigzag running only works in open space. When the hare runs out of room to maneuver, when obstacles block potential escape routes, the strategy fails. And there's another problem. Zigzag running is loud. The feet hit the ground hard during direction changes. The impacts produce sound. In quiet conditions, these sounds carry far enough that other predators can hear the chase and investigate. A hare escaping one fox might run directly toward a second predator, attracted by the noise. The escape route itself becomes a liability. This brings us to a different survival skill entirely, one that works in dense cover where zigzag running fails. The ability to move without making any sound at all. There are moments when running is not an option. Dense thickets where zigzag patterns won't work. Predators too close for a sprint to succeed. Times when the only choice is to move slowly, carefully, without making a sound. The hare's feet are built for this kind of silence. Unlike many mammals, hares have no paw pads, no leathery cushions on the bottom of their feet. Instead, fur covers everything, thick, soft fur that extends between the toes and wraps around the entire foot. This might seem like a disadvantage at first glance. Paw pads help cats stalk silently. They help dogs grip slippery surfaces. They provide cushioning during hard landings. But hares don't need paw pads. The fur serves a different purpose entirely. When a hare places its foot on the ground, the fur compresses. It spreads the weight across a larger surface area than a paw pad would. The individual hairs bend rather than the whole foot striking at once. This creates almost no sound on most surfaces. Watch a hare moving through tall grass at night. Each step is deliberate. The front foot reaches forward, touches down gently, then the hind foot follows. The rhythm is slow and measured. There's no urgency in the movement, just careful placement, one foot after another. moving through vegetation without disturbing a single blade of grass. The feet are long and narrow. The two center toes extend farther than the outer toes, creating an elongated shape. This distributes pressure along the length of the foot rather than concentrating it in one spot. When the hare walks, the weight transfers gradually from heel to toe. The motion is smooth, continuous, leaving barely any compression marks in soft soil. In winter, this design becomes even more effective. Snow muffles sound naturally, but it also reveals tracks easily. A heavy-footed animal breaks through the surface, leaving deep impressions. The hare's furred feet act like natural snowshoes. The surface area prevents the feet from sinking deeply. The hare walks on top of crusted snow that would collapse under a fox's weight. The tracks are shallow, sometimes barely visible unless you know what to look for. The movement itself follows a pattern that minimizes noise. The hare doesn't rush. It pauses between steps, listening. Front feet move first, testing the ground ahead. If the surface is quiet, the hind feet follow. If something crunches or rustles, the hare adjusts its path, finding quieter ground before continuing. This slow movement requires patience. A hare crossing 65 feet of open ground might take 5 minutes when moving silently. The same distance could be covered in 3 seconds at full sprint. But sprinting makes noise, it attracts attention. Silent movement trades speed for invisibility. The predator never knows the hare passed nearby. Dense cover favors this strategy. Brush piles, fallen logs, thick hedgerows, places where running would create a crashing sound as branches break and leaves scatter. The hare slips through gaps between obstacles. Its body compresses, squeezing through openings that look too small. The long ears fold back flat against the skull, reducing width. The whole animal becomes streamlined, sliding through spaces without touching surrounding vegetation. The breathing changes during silent movement. No rapid panting, no deep breaths that could be heard in quiet conditions. Instead, the hare breathes slowly through its nose. Small, shallow breaths that move minimal air. The chest barely rises and falls. An observer watching from just a few yards away might not notice the breathing at all. There's something almost meditative about this kind of movement. The hare exists completely in the present moment. Every sense focused on the immediate surroundings, ears tracking ambient sounds, eyes scanning for movement, nose testing the air for scent, feet feeling the ground texture before committing weight. Nothing else matters except the next step, the next pause, the next careful placement of a furred foot on silent ground. The technique works because predators expect certain sounds. Rustling vegetation means something is moving. Snapping twigs indicate weight being applied. Rapid movement creates noise that carries across open space. But slow, deliberate movement with proper foot placement creates no recognizable sound pattern. The predator's brain doesn't register it as worthy of investigation, just another subtle environmental sound among thousands of others. This becomes especially important during feeding. Hares often graze in areas where predators also hunt. The same field edges, the same meadow openings, timing overlaps. A hare might be feeding while a fox patrols nearby. Running would reveal location immediately. Freezing works only if the predator doesn't know the hare is there. Silent movement offers a third option. Keep feeding, but move slowly enough that each bite of vegetation makes no more sound than wind-moving grass. The strategy requires constant awareness. The hare can never fully relax while using silent movement. It's always monitoring, always adjusting. A distant sound triggers a pause. Wind direction changes prompt a route adjustment. The mental energy required is substantial. This is not a technique that can be maintained indefinitely. Eventually, the hare needs to either find cover where it can rest or commit to a faster movement pattern, even if it means making noise. Young hares learn silent movement through imitation. They follow their mother during the first few weeks after birth, watching how she places her feet, watching how she pauses, watching how she adjusts her path around noisy ground. The learning process is gradual. Young hares make mistakes. They step on dry leaves that crunch. They brush against branches that rustle. But over time, the movements become automatic. The feet find quiet ground without conscious thought. Different surfaces require different techniques. Dry leaves are treacherous, almost impossible to cross silently. The hare either finds an alternate route or accepts that some noise is inevitable and moves quickly through the leaf litter rather than trying to step carefully. Gravel presents similar problems. Each stone that shifts creates sound. Rocky areas are generally avoided when silent movement is required. Soft grass offers the best conditions. The fur on the hare's feet parts the grass stems gently. The stems spring back after the foot passes, leaving no obvious trail. The ground underneath compresses slightly but makes no sound. A hare can cross a grass field in near complete silence if it moves carefully enough. But even perfect silent movement has limitations. It only works when the predator relies primarily on sound for detection. Foxes hunting at night depend heavily on hearing. Silent movement is effective against them. But birds of prey hunting from above use vision almost exclusively. Silent steps offer no advantage when the predator is watching from the sky. The hare must assess which predators might be present and choose movement strategies accordingly. The real power of silent movement becomes clear when combined with the hare's other survival strategies. Freeze when the predator is distant. Silent movement when the predator is nearby but not looking directly at you. Zigzag sprint when detection has already occurred. Each technique serves a specific situation. Together, they create a flexible system that adapts to whatever threat appears. And yet, despite all these adaptations, despite the specialized feet and learned techniques, there remains something the hare cannot control. The environment itself. Some places are naturally quiet, others are inherently noisy. The hare must learn to read landscapes to understand which areas favor which survival strategies. This skill becomes especially important when we consider predators that have once disappeared from these landscapes. The Iberian lynx was nearly extinct in the early 2000s, with only 62 individuals remaining. However, thanks to intensive conservation efforts, its population has recovered remarkably. Today, reintroduced lynx populations are expanding their territory, and rabbits in these areas are having to relearn behaviors their ancestors once knew. Now back to the rabbit. This brings us to adaptation, how hares adjust their behavior based on where they live, how the same species thrives in completely different environments, from snowy mountains to desert edges to agricultural plains. The flexibility required for this kind of range is remarkable. The European hare lives across a vast range, from the warm plains of Spain to the cool forests of Scandinavia. From sea-level meadows to mountain slopes, the same species, the same basic body plan, thriving in places that seem to demand completely different adaptations. Temperature varies enormously across this range. Southern populations experience summers above 30 degrees Celsius, northern populations endure winters below -20, yet hares survive in both locations. The secret lies not in dramatic physical differences, but in subtle behavioral adjustments and moderate physiological flexibility. The fur provides the foundation for this temperature tolerance. Unlike some mammals that molt completely between seasons, European hares maintain the same basic coat year-round. The fur on their backs gets slightly longer and denser as autumn approaches. New underfur grows in, creating better insulation. But the change is gradual. The color remains mostly consistent, that mixture of brown and gray that blends with dry vegetation across multiple environments. In northern regions where snow persists for weeks, we see minor adaptations. The fur on the sides of the head develops white patches. The base of the ears lightens. These small changes help break up the hare's outline against snowy backgrounds. Not perfect camouflage like the mountain hare's complete white coat, but enough to reduce visibility from a distance. The grey-brown back still shows, but from above, against white ground, the pattern becomes less distinct. Southern populations skip most of these winter changes. The fur thickens slightly, but the coloration stays summer-toned. Snow is rare or absent in Mediterranean climates. The camouflage needs haven't shifted. The hare blends with dead grass and exposed soil throughout the year. Energy that northern hares invest in seasonal fur gets redirected toward reproduction or fat storage in southern populations. Body size shows variation too, though the pattern is complex. We might expect larger hares in colder climates, following the general rule that larger bodies retain heat better. But observations don't support this clearly. Some northern populations average slightly larger, but other factors matter more. Food availability, predator pressure, local genetics. Climate influences size, but it's not the dominant factor. Instead, behavior adapts more readily than body structure. Northern hares create forms in locations that capture sunlight. South-facing slopes, sheltered spots behind rocks or logs. The positioning maximizes warmth during cold months. Southern hares choose shaded locations. North-facing slopes, dense vegetation that blocks midday sun. The same behavior, selecting resting spots, produces opposite choices based on local climate. Precipitation matters as much as temperature. Hares thrive best with moderate rainfall, between 450 and 700 millimeters annually. This supports the grassland and herb growth that hares depend on without creating the wet conditions that damage their health. Too little rain and vegetation becomes sparse. Too much, and the ground stays saturated, fur gets waterlogged, parasites increase. The relationship with snow reveals interesting patterns. Light snow coverage, 40 to 60 days per year, actually benefits hares. The snow insulates the ground. Plants underneath remain accessible. Forms scraped in snow provide better wind protection than summer depressions in bare soil. But heavy snow creates problems. Deep accumulation makes movement difficult. Food becomes buried. Energy costs rise as hares must dig through snow to reach vegetation. Altitude brings its own challenges. Most hares live below 650 feet elevation. The valleys and lowlands where agriculture dominates European landscapes. But populations exist in mountainous regions, sometimes ranging above 2,600 feet. These high-altitude hares face shorter growing seasons, less diverse vegetation, harsher winters. They compensate by focusing activity during the limited warm months, building fat reserves more aggressively than lowland populations. The landscape structure matters enormously. Hares need a mixture of habitat types within their home range: open fields for feeding, hedgerows for cover, edge habitat where different vegetation types meet. This mosaic provides food diversity and shelter options throughout the year. Modern agriculture sometimes creates landscapes too uniform to support healthy hare populations. Vast monoculture fields offer limited resources. The absence of hedgerows and field margins removes crucial cover. Grassland represents ideal habitat. The varied plant species provide nutrition across seasons. The height offers concealment without blocking visibility. Hares can see approaching threats while remaining partially hidden. Mixed grassland, containing both grasses and broadleafed herbs, supports the highest hare densities. These areas supply the dietary variety hares need while maintaining the open character they prefer. Woodland is more complicated. Hares are not forest animals. Dense forest with closed canopy provides little suitable habitat. The ground vegetation is too sparse. Visibility is too limited. But woodland edges work well. The transition zone between forest and field combines shelter from the trees with open ground for feeding and movement. Many hares establish territories that include both field and woodland edge, using each habitat type for different purposes. Agricultural fields vary in suitability. Winter wheat works well. The crop provides food during cold months when other vegetation is scarce or dead. The plants grow tall enough to offer some cover without creating the density that blocks movement. Sugar beet and other root crops get used heavily, especially when farmers leave harvest remnants in fields. Clover fields provide excellent nutrition and support high hare densities when present in the landscape mosaic. Maize presents problems: the tall, dense growth blocks, visibility, and movement. Hares avoid maize fields during the growing season. The plant structure doesn't match their behavioral needs. As maize production has expanded across Europe for energy generation, hare populations in maize-dominated regions have declined. The habitat has simply become unsuitable, too uniform and restrictive for a species that needs open sightlines and movement freedom. Water access varies across the range but remains consistently important. Hares need to drink regularly, though they get substantial moisture from vegetation. In wetter climates, standing water is abundant. In drier regions, hares rely more heavily on morning dew and plant moisture content. They adjust feeding times to coincide with periods when vegetation holds maximum moisture. Early morning grazing becomes more important in arid climates than in humid regions. The social structure remains consistent across environments. Hares are solitary foragers regardless of location. Home ranges overlap. Multiple hares use the same general areas without defending territories, but they avoid close proximity except during breeding. This pattern holds from Spain to Sweden, from lowlands to hills. The spacing between individuals adjusts based on food availability, but the basic social organization doesn't change. Breeding timing shifts with climate. Southern populations start earlier, sometimes breeding year-round in mild conditions. Northern populations compress breeding into the warmer months, March through August in most locations. The leverets need warm weather and abundant vegetation to survive their first weeks. Timing births to match favorable conditions is crucial. Females that breed too early or too late in seasonal environments produce fewer surviving offspring. The predator community changes across the range, but the basic threats remain similar. Foxes hunt hares everywhere. Large raptors take leverets in most regions. The specific predator species varies, but hares face similar predation pressure throughout their range. The survival strategies we've discussed, freezing, fleeing, zigzag running, work against predators regardless of location. The tactics are universal even though the predator identities shift. Human activity has reshaped hare habitat more dramatically than climate variation. Traditional agriculture created excellent hare habitat, small fields with diverse crops, hedgerows between properties, field margins left fallow. This landscape mosaic supported high hare populations across much of Europe. Modern intensive agriculture removed many of these features. Fields became larger and more uniform. Hedgerows disappeared. Chemical use increased. These changes affected hare populations more than natural climate differences ever did. Some regions have recognized the problem and implemented conservation measures. Wildflower strips planted along field edges, buffer zones between crops, reduced pesticide use in designated areas. Where these measures exist, hare populations often stabilize or recover. The species responds well to habitat improvements. The flexibility that allows hares to live across diverse climates also lets them take advantage of conservation efforts quickly. The adaptability we see in European hares comes from behavioral flexibility more than physical specialization. The body plan stays relatively constant. The survival strategies remain consistent. But the timing, location selection, and specific implementation of these behaviors adjusts to local conditions. A hare in Spain and a hare in Sweden use the same basic toolkit. They just apply the tools differently based on what their environment demands. This flexibility has limits though. Hares thrive in temperate, open country. They've adapted to the range of conditions found within that general habitat type. But they don't live in true deserts. They don't inhabit dense tropical forests. They can't survive in extreme Arctic conditions without the habitat modifications and coat color changes seen in their mountain hare relatives. The European hare has evolved to be a versatile temperate zone specialist, not a universal generalist. Understanding these patterns helps us recognize what hares need. Not a single perfect habitat type, but access to variety within their home range. Not static conditions, but seasonal changes they can anticipate and adjust to. Not isolation from all disturbance, but landscapes where they can find the mix of open ground and cover that their lifestyle requires. And that lifestyle involves more than solitary foraging and predator avoidance. During spring, something changes in the hare's behavior. The normally nocturnal animals become active in daylight. Groups form where individuals usually avoid each other. The quiet fields suddenly host strange rituals that have puzzled observers for centuries. Evening settles across the meadow. One hare appears from the hedgerow, then another. A third emerges from a form near the field edge. They space themselves naturally, not too close, not too far. Each one begins to feed, head down, pulling at grass stems and young clover shoots. But watch them carefully. Watch how the ears move. One hare feeds while the others pause, heads up, scanning the surroundings. The pattern shifts constantly. Someone is always watching while the others eat. This happens without any visible signal, without planning. They simply know when to look up, when to keep grazing. This is the hare's social warning system. Not a group in the way we usually think of animal groups. No pack structure like wolves, no flock cohesion like starlings. Just individual hares feeding in the same area, connected by awareness of each other's presence, connected by a shared understanding of danger. The system works through attention. When one hare stops eating and raises its head, the others notice. Ears swivel toward whatever caught the first hare's attention. If that hare returns to feeding, the others relax too. False alarm, just a branch moving in the wind or a bird landing nearby. But if the first hare stays alert, ears locked in one direction, body tensed, the others respond. They stop feeding, they orient toward the same direction. They prepare to move. No sound passes between them, no calls or warnings, just visual cues read and understood instantly. A raised head means something caught attention. Lowered ears pressed back signal serious threat. A sudden movement, any hare bolting, triggers immediate flight response in all nearby animals. They don't wait to see what caused the panic. They run first, investigate later. The spacing between hares matters. Too close and they compete for food, waste energy on small dominance displays. Too far and the warning system breaks down. They can't see each other's reactions. The ideal distance varies with terrain and vegetation height, but it usually sits around 70 to 100, close enough to monitor each other, far enough to avoid conflict. Feeding in groups provides real advantages. Each individual spends less time watching for predators because others are watching too. More eyes scanning the environment means earlier detection of threats. A fox approaching from any direction will be spotted by at least one hare in the group. That hare's reaction alerts the others. The entire group gains protection from the vigilance of individuals. But there's no leadership here, no alpha hare making decisions, no coordinated movement patterns. When danger appears, each hare makes its own choice: run or freeze, sprint left or right, head for thick cover or open ground. The decisions are individual based on each animal's position, the threat's location, available escape routes. Sometimes they scatter in completely different directions. Sometimes they happen to run parallel courses. Pure coincidence, not coordination. The group feeding happens most often in the hours just after sunset and before sunrise. The twilight periods when hares feel most comfortable being active. During full daylight, they usually rest in forms, solitary and hidden. Deep night brings them out too, but they spread wider across the landscape, following food availability rather than gathering in concentrations. The communication extends beyond just danger warnings. When a hare finds particularly good forage, others notice, as they see where it's feeding. Watch how long it stays in that spot. If the first hare feeds intensely without moving for several minutes, others drift in that direction, not directly approaching that might trigger defensive behavior, but gradually working closer to the food source. Eventually, multiple hares end up feeding on the same clover patch or grass area, drawn there by watching each other's feeding success. Ears tell most of the story. The position, the angle, the speed of movement. Ears held high and forward show interest in something ahead. Ears swiveling independently mean the hare is scanning, not focused on any particular threat. Ears laid flat back against the head signal aggression or extreme fear, depending on context. Other hares read these signals from remarkable distances. The long ears make visible semaphore signals that carry across the field. Body posture adds more information. A relaxed hare feeds with its body low, weight distributed on all 4 feet. An alert hare stands taller, weight shifted back toward the powerful hind legs, ready to spring away. The difference is subtle but clear to other hares. They recognize the shift from feeding posture to alert posture instantly, even in dim light. The system has its limits. It only works when hares can see each other. Dense fog eliminates visual communication. Heavy rain reduces visibility and makes it harder to distinguish hare shapes from surrounding vegetation. Darkness beyond twilight diminishes the signal effectiveness. In these conditions, hares rely more on their individual senses. The group advantage diminishes. The group feeding also creates vulnerability in certain situations. A predator watching from cover can identify the gathering spots. It knows where to find multiple hares concentrated in a small area. The very thing that provides protection through shared vigilance also creates a target. Foxes learn to approach feeding groups from downwind, moving slowly, staying low. If they can get close before being spotted, they have multiple potential targets to choose from. Dominance plays a role when food is concentrated. A patch of particularly lush clover or a farmer's vegetable garden creates competition. Dominant hares feed first. They chase subordinates away from the best food. But interestingly, as more hares arrive, the dominant individuals can't defend the entire resource. They're too busy chasing away competitors. While they're occupied with one subordinate, others sneak in and feed. The larger the group, the less effective dominance becomes. Eventually, everyone gets some access to the food. This creates an interesting balance. Subordinate hares benefit from larger groups because dominant animals can't monopolize resources. Dominant hares do better in smaller groups where they can control access. But all hares benefit from the early warning system that groups provide. So we see groups of various sizes depending on food distribution and predation pressure. The communication system is mostly silent, but hares do make sounds occasionally. A mother hare uses low, guttural calls to summon her leverets for nursing. The young respond to these calls even from considerable distances. When caught by a predator, hares emit high-pitched squeals. Other hares hearing these alarm screams freeze or flee immediately. The sound means someone died. Danger is present and real. Less dramatic are the subtle sounds of feeding groups, the tearing of vegetation, the soft thump of a hare shifting position. Even these quiet sounds provide information. Other hares recognize the normal acoustic pattern of peaceful feeding. Any disruption to this pattern, unexpected silence, unusual sounds, triggers increased vigilance. The hind feet create warning signals too. When a hare detects danger but isn't ready to flee yet, it may thump its hind feet on the ground. The impact creates a low-frequency thump that carries well through soil. Other hares feel or hear this signal. They respond by becoming alert, scanning for the threat. This foot thumping is most common when the threat is distant or uncertain. It says, "Something might be wrong, pay attention," rather than "run now." As the night progresses, the feeding groups gradually disperse. Hares move off individually, following their own paths, seeking different food sources or returning to favored resting spots. The social connection dissolves as naturally as it formed. No goodbyes, no group decision to separate. They simply drift apart until each hare is once again alone in the darkness. This temporary association, this brief cooperation for mutual benefit, defines the hare's social life for most of the year. But spring changes everything. When breeding season arrives, the solitary animals suddenly seek each other out. The careful spacing breaks down, competition intensifies, and we see behaviors that seem almost unrecognizable compared to the quiet feeding groups of winter. Winter fades slowly. The days stretch longer. Warmth returns to the soil, and something shifts in the hares. The quiet animals who spent months avoiding each other suddenly appear in daylight, not just at dawn or dusk, but in the full brightness of afternoon. They move differently now. There's energy in their movements, a restlessness that wasn't there before. This is how spring announces itself in the hare's world. Not through flowers or birdsong, though those come too. Through behavior, through the breaking of patterns that held steady all winter long. A male hare crosses an open field in March. He's not feeding. He's searching. His path weaves back and forth, nose to the ground, following scent trails invisible to us. He pauses, lifts his head, ears scanning, then continues. The pattern repeats across the meadow. Other males are doing the same thing. Sometimes their paths cross. Brief acknowledgements, a moment of tension, then they separate and continue searching. They're looking for females, and the females, for their part, are not particularly interested in being found, not yet. A female rests in her form, watching a male approach. He gets close. She doesn't run, she simply sits there, waiting. He moves closer still, perhaps 30 feet away now. She stands up, calmly, deliberately. The male stops watching. Then she does something unexpected. She runs directly at him. The male freezes for a heartbeat, surprised. Before he can react, she's there. She rears up on her hind legs. Her front paws swing forward, striking him across the head and shoulders. Once, twice. The male staggers back. The female drops to all fours, turns and hops away. Not fleeing, just leaving. The male watches her go. After a moment he follows, slowly, keeping his distance now. This is boxing. The behavior that gave rise to the old saying, mad as a March hare. For centuries, people assumed these were males fighting each other for breeding rights. Two rivals battling for dominance. But watch carefully. Most boxing happens between a male and a female, and the female initiates it. She stands and strikes. The male usually just tries to protect himself, backing away, sometimes running. It looks violent. The paws move fast. Sometimes fur flies, ears get scarred. But it's not a true fight, it's communication. The female is saying not yet, or not you, or prove you're serious. The males who give up and leave after one boxing match don't get to mate. The ones who wait, who keep following at a respectful distance, who approach again later after she's had time to rest, those are the ones she eventually accepts. The chasing happens too. A female moves across the field. 3 or 4 males follow behind her, strung out in a line. She's not running at full speed. She could easily lose them if she wanted. Instead, she maintains just enough distance to keep them interested, but not close enough for contact. This chase might continue for an hour, sometimes longer. Across fields, through hedgerows, around obstacles. Eventually, she stops. The males catch up, but they don't crowd her. They space themselves around her in a loose circle, each one waiting. She chooses one. Usually not the fastest or the strongest. Sometimes it's the one who was most persistent. Sometimes it's simply the one who happened to be in the right position when she decided she was ready. The mating itself is brief. Seconds, not minutes. Then she leaves and the males disperse. But she'll mate again. With different males many times over the coming weeks. This isn't a species that forms pairs or bonds. The males provide nothing except genes. They don't help raise young, they don't defend territory, they don't even stay with the female after mating. Everyone goes their separate way. The daylight activity is what makes spring hares so visible. All winter they were creatures of twilight and darkness. Now suddenly they're out in afternoon sun, running and boxing and chasing across open fields. This makes them vulnerable. Foxes see them, raptors see them, but the behavior continues because the drive to breed overrides caution. The species needs the next generation. Individual safety becomes secondary. Males during this time seem almost oblivious to danger. A fox appearing at the field edge might scatter the females, but the males often keep chasing, keep trying to get close to the females, distracted by mating drive. Only when the fox gets very close do they finally break off and run. This is the madness people noticed. Hares behaving in ways that seem reckless, that ignore the careful survival strategies they use the rest of the year. The boxing serves another purpose beyond simple refusal. It tests endurance. A male who gives up after one strike probably won't be a persistent partner. A male who keeps coming back, who absorbs multiple strikes and continues following, demonstrates commitment. The female learns something about each suitor through these interactions: who's serious, who's just opportunistic. She makes choices based on behavior, not appearance. And there's hierarchy in this chaos. Older, more experienced males seem to know which approaches work. They don't rush. They maintain appropriate distance. They read the female's signals better. Younger males make mistakes. They approach too quickly, get too close, trigger boxing before the female has warmed to their presence. They learn through repetition. Each breeding season teaches them what works and what doesn't, but there's no alpha male controlling access to females, no single dominant animal who gets first choice. Any male who finds a receptive female can mate with her. The bigger, stronger males don't exclude smaller ones. Everyone participates. The system is surprisingly egalitarian. Success comes from persistence and timing more than physical dominance. The females go through cycles. Roughly every 6 weeks during the breeding season, they become receptive. The window is narrow, maybe 6 hours. During that brief period, they'll accept mating. Before and after, they reject all advances. This creates waves of activity, quiet periods where males search and females rebuff them, then sudden, intense periods where multiple females are receptive simultaneously, and every male in the area converges on them. Between matings, the females rest and feed. They need enormous energy for what's coming. They'll carry the young for about 6 weeks, then give birth, then immediately mate again and start another pregnancy while still nursing the first litter. This cycle can repeat 3 times in a single season. The physical demands are immense, so the feeding becomes crucial. Spring vegetation provides the nutrition needed, but only if the female can feed without constant interruption from pursuing males. This is why the boxing matters. It keeps the males at distance. When the female needs to eat, it creates space for her to rest. Without this defensive behavior, males would exhaust females through constant pursuit. The species evolved a system where females control the timing and males must demonstrate patience to succeed. The chases across fields serve social purposes too. Other hares, watching, learn who's receptive, who's not. The visual display provides information to the whole local population. A female running with males following signals her status to everyone. This reduces unnecessary approaches from other males who see she's already being pursued. It creates a kind of temporary claiming without actual pairing or territoriality. As the season progresses, the intensity gradually decreases. The early spring madness, the peak activity in March and April, gives way to calmer patterns by May and June. Breeding continues through summer, but the frantic energy fades. Males become less aggressive in pursuing females. The boxing happens less frequently. Everything relaxes back toward the solitary patterns of autumn and winter. The breeding season shows us a different side of the hare's nature. The careful, cautious animal who freezes and hides suddenly becomes bold and visible. The solitary creature who avoids others actively seeks them out. The silent animal starts making noise through physical contact. All the winter survival behaviors get temporarily suspended for the sake of reproduction. And then the leverets arrive, born fully furred, eyes open, able to move. The mother places them in a form, nurses them once, then leaves. This seems strange at first, but it follows the pattern of the species. Minimize contact, reduce scent trails, keep predators from finding the young through association with the mother. The leverets scatter each day, reunite at dusk when the mother returns, briefly, to nurse them again. Within a few weeks, they're independent. They start feeding on vegetation, they explore their surroundings, and the cycle continues. Some will survive their first year, some won't. Those who do will participate in the next spring's rituals, learning the patterns their parents followed. The breeding season's intensity contrasts sharply with the quiet months that follow. As summer peaks and days start shortening again, the hares return to their nocturnal patterns. The males stop pursuing. The females focus on their final litters of the season. Everyone retreats into that careful, measured existence where survival takes precedence over everything else. But spring will return, and with it, the madness, the boxing, the chasing, the brief transformation of cautious creatures into bold ones. This rhythm has repeated for thousands of years. It will continue as long as hares occupy these fields and meadows, the ancient pattern playing out again and again, generation after generation. And while all this breeding and chasing happens, the hares still need to eat, still need to find food that sustains them through the enormous energy demands of reproduction. The feeding patterns shift with the season. The nighttime hours become crucial for gathering the nutrition that fuels everything else. The sun sets slowly across the meadow. Colors fade from the grass. Shadows stretch and merge into general darkness. And the hares begin to move, not all at once. One here, another there, emerging from forms where they've rested through the daylight hours. Stretching, listening, then starting the night's work of finding food. A hare spends about 8 hours feeding each night, sometimes more in winter when food is scarce, sometimes less in summer when everything grows thick and green. But the pattern stays consistent. Rest during the day, feed during darkness. This rhythm has been the same for as long as hares have existed. The feeding starts slowly. The hare moves from its form to the nearest patch of suitable grass, lowers its head, begins to graze. The mouth works steadily. Bite, chew, swallow, bite, chew, swallow. The movement is methodical, unhurried. There's no rush. The night stretches ahead with hours of darkness remaining. Grass makes up most of the diet. Different types depending on season and location. Young grass shoots in spring, taller stems in summer, whatever stays green in autumn. In winter, the hare switches to dried grasses, the stems that remain standing above snow or frost. The teeth are built for this work. The front incisors cut through plant material. The back molars grind it into pulp. The whole system evolved specifically for processing tough vegetation. But hares don't just eat grass. Clover grows mixed among the grass stems. The hare seeks it out, selecting the clover leaves over plain grass when both are available. Clover contains more protein, more nutrition packed into each bite. During spring and summer, wildflowers add variety. Corn poppies, dandelions, the tender leaves of various herbs. The hare samples them all, moving between plant types, creating a mixed diet rather than eating only one thing. In winter, the menu changes. Grass dies back or disappears under snow. The hare shifts to woody material, twigs from shrubs, bark stripped from young trees, the tender buds that form on branches before spring growth begins. This food is harder to digest, lower in nutrition, but it sustains life when nothing else is available. The hare's digestive system adapts, processing the tough material slowly, extracting every possible nutrient. Fields where farmers plant crops become important feeding grounds. Winter wheat grows through cold months when wild plants are dormant. The hare grazes on wheat stems, finding nutrition in the young green growth. Sugar beet fields offer another food source. The hare digs at beet roots left in the ground after harvest. Carrots draw hares from surrounding areas when farmers leave them exposed. These agricultural foods weren't part of the ancestral hare's diet, but the species adapted, learning to use human crops as supplements to wild vegetation. The feeding pattern follows a loose structure. The hare doesn't stay in one spot all night. It grazes for 30 or 40 minutes, then moves to a new location, grazes again, moves again. Over the course of the night, it might cover 2 or 3 miles, not in a straight line, more like a wandering path that touches multiple feeding patches. This movement serves several purposes. It prevents overgrazing any single area. It reduces the chance of predators finding the hare in a predictable location, and it allows access to varied food types. Sometimes the hare feeds alone. Other times, several hares gather at the same food source. A particularly good clover patch might attract 4 or 5 individuals. They space themselves naturally, maintaining distance, but sharing the resource. The feeding continues in comfortable silence, each hare focused on its own grazing. No competition unless food becomes concentrated in a very small area. Then dominance matters briefly, with larger hares taking prime positions and smaller ones feeding at the edges. The night isn't just for eating. The hare also drinks when water is available. Dew collecting on grass provides moisture. Streams and ponds offer direct drinking sources. In dry conditions, the hare gets most of its water from the plants themselves. Fresh vegetation contains enough moisture to sustain life even without access to standing water. This becomes important in late summer when streams dry up and ponds shrink to mud. Weather affects feeding patterns considerably. Clear, calm nights allow relaxed grazing. The hare can hear approaching danger, can see movement even in darkness. But windy nights create problems. Moving vegetation makes constant noise. The hare's hearing becomes less useful. Visual detection gets harder as everything sways and shifts. On very windy nights, hares often reduce feeding time, returning to forms earlier than usual. Better to be slightly hungry than vulnerable to undetected predators. Rain changes the calculation differently. Light rain doesn't stop feeding. The hare continues grazing, its fur shedding water reasonably well for short periods, but heavy rain soaks through the coat. The wet fur loses its insulating properties. The hare gets cold. Energy spent staying warm subtracts from energy available for other needs. In heavy rain, hares seek shelter under dense vegetation or against rocks and logs. They wait out the worst of the weather, resuming feeding when conditions improve. Moon phases influence behavior too, though not as dramatically as people once believed. Full moon nights provide better visibility. The hare can see farther, spot predators sooner, but predators can also see the hare more easily. The advantage and disadvantage roughly balance out. On moonless nights, darkness provides better concealment but limits the hare's own visual range. Different trade-offs, similar outcomes. The hare feeds either way, adjusting its vigilance level to match conditions. The digestive process itself is interesting. Hares, like rabbits, practice something called coprophagy. They eat their own droppings, not all of them, just the soft, green pellets produced during the day while resting in forms. These soft pellets are rich in nutrients that didn't get absorbed during the first pass through the digestive system. By eating them again, the hare extracts additional nutrition from food that would otherwise be wasted. The hard, dry pellets produced at night get left behind. They're depleted of nutrients, no longer worth consuming. This two-stage digestion allows hares to survive on food that many other animals couldn't process. Grass is tough. It contains cellulose, which most mammals can't break down efficiently. Hares solve this by fermenting plant material in their gut, similar to how cows use multiple stomach chambers. The first pass through the digestive system begins the breakdown. The soft pellets get re-ingested. The second pass completes nutrient extraction. The system isn't elegant, but it works. The amount of food consumed each night is substantial. A single adult hare eats about as much vegetation as a third of a sheep. 2 or 3 hares grazing together match one sheep's food consumption. In areas with high hare populations, this creates noticeable impact on vegetation. Fields grazed by hares show different plant composition than ungrazed fields. Preferred species get eaten down, less palatable plants grow taller. The hare's feeding choices shape the landscape over time. Farmers have mixed feelings about hare feeding habits. Small populations don't cause significant crop damage. The hares eat some wheat, some vegetables, but not enough to impact yields noticeably. But large hare populations can damage young crops. Newly planted fields get grazed heavily. Orchard trees have bark stripped in winter. The damage becomes economically significant. This creates tension. Hares are part of the countryside, but they're also agricultural pests when numbers grow too high. As dawn approaches, the feeding pace slows. The hare has filled its stomach. It's consumed enough food to sustain another day of rest. Now it begins moving back toward the area where it will spend the daylight hours. Not necessarily to the exact same form. Often the hare creates a new resting spot each day, but generally to the same region, a familiar area where it knows the terrain, knows the escape routes, knows where cover exists. The transition from night to day happens gradually. The hare continues grazing as the sky begins to lighten, but its attention shifts more toward watching and listening, less toward eating. Other animals are waking up. Birds begin singing. Foxes head back to their dens after hunting all night. The risk of encountering a predator increases as the diurnal species become active. The hare finishes its final bites of grass, moves toward cover, scrapes out a form or settles into an existing one. The feeding is done. The day of rest begins. This pattern repeats every night, through all seasons. The hare's life revolves around this simple rhythm. Hide during day, feed during night. The specifics change. The plants eaten in summer differ from winter choices. The locations vary. The time spent feeding adjusts to conditions, but the basic structure remains constant. It's worked for countless generations. It will continue working as long as there are meadows with grass and nights dark enough to provide cover. And while the hare feeds, moving through darkness with steady purpose, it communicates in subtle ways with the world around it, not through sound, not through obvious signals, but through body language that other hares read and understand, through movements and postures that carry meaning for those who know how to interpret them. The ears tell most of the story. Watch a hare resting in its form. The ears move constantly, swiveling, rotating, each ear independent of the other. One might point forward, while the other aims back. They scan the environment in a slow, continuous sweep. This movement is communication in itself. It tells other hares that this one is alert, aware, monitoring its surroundings. When a hare raises both ears straight up, it signals interest. Something caught attention. Other hares see this posture and become alert themselves. They look in the same direction. The raised ears ask a question without sound. Is there danger? Is there food? The answer comes from context and from what happens next. Lowered ears mean something different. When ears fold back against the head, pressed flat, it's a warning. Keep away. This position appears during confrontations, when one hare approaches another too closely. The flattened ears say clearly, "I'm not comfortable with this." The approaching hare usually respects the signal and maintains distance. The front feet create messages too. A hare thumps its front feet when challenging another individual. The sound is sharp, deliberate. It's not loud, but other hares hear it clearly. This thumping happens during disputes over food or resting spots. It's a claim, a statement of presence. The hare making the sound is establishing itself in that space. The hind feet send different signals. When a hare detects potential danger but hasn't identified it clearly yet, the hind feet thump against the ground. This creates a deeper, heavier sound than front foot thumping. The vibration travels through soil. Other hares feel it as much as hear it. The message is simple: pay attention, something might be wrong. Body posture conveys emotion and intention. A relaxed hare sits low to the ground, weight distributed evenly, ears at rest, not rigid. The whole body appears soft, loose. This posture tells other hares that everything is calm. There's no threat nearby. It's safe to continue whatever activity they're doing. An alert hare looks completely different. The body rises, weight shifts to the back legs. The hare is ready to spring away at any moment. The ears stand upright, locked in position. Every muscle shows tension. This transformation happens in an instant when danger appears. Other hares recognize the change immediately and respond accordingly. The tail position matters during movement. When a hare runs with its tail down, it signals submission or uncertainty. The hare is fleeing but not confident about escape. When the tail lifts during running, it shows confidence or excitement. The hare is in control of the situation. These subtle differences tell observers about the hare's emotional state without requiring any sound. Hares rarely make sounds, but when they do, each vocalization carries specific meaning. The low grunts that occur occasionally during feeding are contact calls. They let other hares know someone is nearby without being alarming. These grunts happen most often when visibility is limited by vegetation or darkness. The guttural calls that mothers make to summon leverets are distinct from all other sounds. Deep, throaty, repeated. The leverets recognize their mother's specific call and respond only to that one. Other hares ignore these calls. Their private communication between mother and young. The shrill scream of a caught hare cuts through the night like nothing else. It's a sound of terror and pain. When other hares hear this, they freeze or run immediately. The scream means a predator succeeded. Death is happening nearby. The appropriate response is to get as far away as possible, as quickly as possible. During social interactions, hares watch each other's movements carefully. The way one hare approaches another tells volumes. A direct approach, head-on, signals confidence or challenge. An angled approach coming from the side shows respect or caution. The approaching hare is giving the other space to retreat if needed. When two hares meet and both want to avoid conflict, they perform a small ritual. They circle each other slowly, maintaining distance, ears neutral, neither raised in challenge nor flattened in fear. After a few moments of this circling, they separate and continue their activities. The encounter acknowledged both individuals without requiring confrontation. The grooming behavior between hares is rare but significant. Unlike rabbits who groom each other frequently, Hares only groom family members and then only briefly. A mother might groom a leveret, siblings might groom each other during their first few weeks together, but adult hares don't groom each other. The species is too solitary for this kind of bonding behavior. The way a hare eats communicates information. Fast, nervous eating with frequent pauses to look around signals anxiety. The hare doesn't feel safe. Slow, steady grazing with minimal interruption shows comfort. The hare trusts its surroundings. Other hares notice these patterns and adjust their own behavior based on what they observe. During rest periods, the sleeping positions reveal trust levels. A hare that sleeps fully, stretched out, legs extended, feels completely safe. This position makes quick escape impossible. The hare has evaluated its surroundings and decided the risk is minimal. Most hares sleep in more compact positions, ready to spring up at any moment. The eyes themselves carry meaning. Wide eyes with dilated pupils indicate fear or excitement. Narrow eyes, almost squinting, suggest contentment or drowsiness. The direction of gaze tells other hares what has caught attention. All these elements combine into a complex visual language that hares read instinctively. Territory isn't maintained through aggression in hares. Instead, they use presence. A hare that frequently occupies a certain form or feeding area establishes familiarity there. Other hares recognize this and usually choose different spots, not because of fear, but because of an understanding that space should be shared without competition when possible. The seasonal changes in behavior create different communication patterns. Winter hares are quieter, more cautious in their interactions. Spring brings increased activity and more frequent encounters. Summer and fall find a middle ground where hares interact regularly during feeding but maintain clear, individual space. Young hares learn this entire language by observation. They watch adults, they mimic postures, they test signals and learn from the responses they receive. A young hare might approach an adult too directly and receive flattened ears in response. The lesson is learned immediately. Next time, the approach will be more cautious. The communication system works because it's consistent across the species. A hare in Spain uses the same ear positions as a hare in Scotland. The signals mean the same things regardless of location. This universality allows hares to interact successfully even when meeting strangers, which happens during breeding season when territories overlap and individuals from different areas encounter each other. All this communication happens in near silence, in darkness, without the elaborate vocalizations that many social animals use. The hares have evolved a system that works with minimal sound, minimal visibility, minimal risk of attracting predators. It's efficient, it's subtle, and it's been refined over countless generations into something remarkably effective. The body language, the postures, the small movements that carry meaning, all of these connect individual hares into a loose social network without requiring true social bonds. They share information, they respond to each other's signals, but they remain fundamentally solitary. It's a balance that suits their lifestyle perfectly, and this communication system exists within a larger web, within an ecosystem where hares play specific roles, where they interact not just with each other, but with every other species sharing their habitat, where their presence shapes the landscape and the landscape shapes them in return. The hare sits at the center of countless connections. It doesn't live in isolation. Every day, every night, it interacts with the world around it. Some of those interactions are dangerous, others are neutral. A few might even be beneficial. Together they form the web that holds the ecosystem in balance. The fox is perhaps the hare's most constant enemy. They share the same fields, the same hedgerows, the same hours of activity. The fox hunts at dusk and through the night. The hare feeds during those same hours. Their paths cross regularly. Sometimes the fox succeeds. More often, the hare escapes. But the relationship shapes both species. The fox has learned patience, strategy, the value of approaching from downwind. The hare has learned vigilance, the art of freezing, the mathematics of when to run. Birds of prey watch from above. The barn owl glides silently through darkness, listening for movement below. The hare's ears detect the faint whisper of wing beats, usually, not always. Young hares, still learning, sometimes miss the warning signs. The owl strikes and the lesson ends permanently. But the hares that survive carry that knowledge forward. They become more cautious, more aware of the sky. During daylight, different predators hunt. The buzzard circles high overhead, scanning the ground with exceptional vision. A hare, resting in its form, might escape notice if it remains perfectly still. But movement draws attention instantly. The buzzard's shadow passes across the field, and every hare below registers the threat. Even without looking up, they know something is watching. Weasels and stoats hunt differently. They're small enough to follow hares into dense cover. They move through the same vegetation, using scent to track. A hare can't outrun a weasel in thick brush, but weasels primarily hunt rabbits and smaller prey. Adult hares are too large, too powerful. The hare's size provides protection here. Young leverets face more danger. They're vulnerable to weasel attacks during their first weeks. Dogs present a strange category. Domestic dogs sometimes chase hares when given the opportunity, but unlike wild predators, dogs often don't know what to do if they actually catch one. The chase itself seems to satisfy something. Historically, certain dog breeds were developed specifically for hare coursing. Greyhounds bred for speed, but most dogs today simply chase without strategy, and most hares escape easily. The hare affects other species through what it eats. Grazing pressure from hares shapes plant communities. Fields with many hares show different vegetation patterns than fields without them. Preferred plants like clover and young grass shoots get eaten heavily. Less palatable species grow taller, produce more seeds. Over years, this selective feeding changes which plants dominate. Some plants benefit from hare grazing. Grasses that get cropped short put energy into root growth instead of seeds. They spread through underground runners, creating dense mats. These grass mats resist erosion, hold soil in place during heavy rains. The hare's feeding, unintentionally, helps stabilize the ground it lives on. Other species depend on the hare indirectly. The insects that live among grass benefit when hares keep vegetation short. Beetles, spiders, ground-dwelling insects all thrive in the microhabitat that grazed grassland provides. These insects feed birds. The birds feed larger predators. Energy flows through the system, and the hare's feeding choices influence every level. The hare's droppings return nutrients to soil. Each pellet contains nitrogen, phosphorus, minerals extracted from plants and concentrated. These nutrients fertilize new plant growth. In areas where hares congregate to feed, the vegetation grows slightly greener, slightly more lush. The hare takes from the land but also gives back. Rabbits occupy similar habitat but use it differently. Where rabbits create permanent burrow systems, they fundamentally alter the landscape. The excavated soil changes drainage patterns. The burrow entrances provide shelter for other species. Rabbits maintain short-cropped vegetation near their warrens through intensive grazing. Hares, without permanent burrows, impact the land more lightly. Their feeding spreads across wider areas. The two species coexist by using space differently. Deer share the same fields during different hours. They're primarily crepuscular like hares, but much larger. Their grazing removes vegetation that hares might eat. But deer also create opportunities. Their trails through tall grass become paths that hares use. The browsing that deer do on shrubs opens sight lines, making it easier for hares to detect approaching predators. Smaller mammals like voles and mice live among the same vegetation. They eat seeds that hares ignore. They use the cover that grass provides. The hare's presence affects them mainly through shared predators. When a fox hunts a field, it might catch a hare or a vole, depending on opportunity. Hares' size and awareness make it a harder target. Voles get caught more easily. In this way, hares might actually improve survival odds for smaller prey by providing an alternative target. Ground nesting birds face challenges in fields where hares feed. Skylarks, lapwings, and others place nests directly on soil among vegetation. A hare moving through grass might accidentally disturb or destroy these nests, but hares also keep some predators occupied. The fox hunting hares is not hunting ground nests at that moment. The relationship between hares and ground nesting birds is complex, neither clearly positive nor negative. The hare's role changes with seasons. In spring, when leverets are born, they become temporary prey for many species. Animals that don't normally hunt adult hares will take young ones. Crows, magpies, even large gulls will kill leverets if they find them. This predation pressure is intense but brief. The leverets that survive the first month face much better odds. In winter, when food is scarce, the hare's bark-stripping behavior affects young trees. Orchards and plantations can suffer real damage. The hare eats bark to survive. The tree sometimes dies. From the tree's perspective, the hare is purely destructive. From the ecosystem's view, the hare is managing woody plant expansion, keeping fields open, preventing forest encroachment. The relationship with humans deserves special attention. For thousands of years, people have hunted hares. The meat provides protein. The fur has value. This hunting pressure removed many hares from the landscape, but it never eliminated them. The species proved resilient, reproductive, adaptable. Where hunting was moderate, hare populations remained stable. Only where habitat destruction accompanied hunting did populations decline seriously. Agriculture transformed the hare's world. The original wild grasslands and forests gave way to fields and hedgerows. Initially, this change benefited hares. The mosaic of agricultural land with its mixture of crops and wild edges provided excellent habitat. Hare populations grew. For centuries, farmland and hares coexisted productively. Modern agriculture changed the equation. Large fields without hedgerows, chemical pesticides, intensive planting schedules. These changes reduced habitat quality. Fewer places for hares to rest, less plant diversity. Reduced food availability during certain seasons. Hare populations declined across Europe starting in the 1960s. The decline continues in many areas today. Conservation efforts focus on restoring habitat elements that hares need. Wildflower strips along field edges, buffer zones between crops, reduced pesticide use in certain areas. Where these measures exist, hare populations often stabilize or even increase. The species responds quickly to habitat improvements. The hare influences human culture in ways beyond its physical presence. Folklore, stories, sayings all reference hare behavior. The phrase "mad as a March hare" entered language because people observed spring-breeding behavior and found it remarkable. Art depicts hares. Literature uses them as symbols. They represent speed, fertility, wildness, the untamed countryside. In the ecosystem's broader view, the hare is what ecologists call a meso-consumer. Not at the top of the food chain, not at the bottom, somewhere in the middle, connecting plants to predators. Energy flows through the hare. Plants convert sunlight to tissue. Hares convert plant tissue to animal protein. Predators convert hare protein to their own survival and reproduction. Remove hares from a landscape and the effects ripple outward. Predators lose a major food source. Plant communities shift. The whole system adjusts to the absence. Add hares back and the adjustments reverse. The system flows toward a new equilibrium that includes them. This is what ecologists mean when they call a species influential. Not that it controls everything, but that its presence or absence matters significantly. The hare's story is ultimately one of connection. Every behavior, every adaptation exists in relation to something else. The freezing response developed because predators hunt by detecting movement. The speed evolved because some predators can't be avoided through stillness alone. The dietary flexibility arose because seasons change and food availability fluctuates. The nocturnal activity pattern fits between the schedules of different predators. Nothing about the hare makes sense in isolation. Everything becomes clear when viewed as part of the web. The hare and its ecosystem are not separate. They're different aspects of the same system. The hare shapes the system shapes the hare. The relationship has been developing for millions of years and continues today. And humans are part of this system too. Our actions ripple through the web just like any other species. When we plant fields, build roads, create cities, the hare responds. Sometimes it adapts successfully. Sometimes populations decline. Understanding these connections helps us make better choices that allow both human needs and their survival to coexist. We began with a mystery in the Scottish Highlands, a hare becoming invisible without moving, a predator circling within inches then leaving confused. What seemed impossible turned out to be just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The European hare isn't exceptional because of any single adaptation. Plenty of animals run fast. Many have excellent hearing. Camouflage exists throughout nature. What makes the hare remarkable is how everything connects. The freezing response only works because the camouflage is perfect. The camouflage only helps because the ears detect threats early enough to choose freezing over running. The ears provide early warning, but only if the hare lives in open habitat where sound travels clearly. The open habitat demands the zigzag running when freezing fails. Each piece depends on all the others. This interconnection extends beyond physical adaptations into behavior and ecology. The hare doesn't build permanent burrows because its feeding strategy requires ranging widely across landscapes. The ranging strategy works because the form provides just enough shelter while maintaining sensory awareness. The awareness system functions because the hare lives solitarily, making its own decisions without group coordination. The solitary lifestyle succeeds because spring breeding doesn't require pair bonding or cooperation. Everything fits together. We see this same integration when examining the hare's relationship with its environment. It shapes plant communities through selective feeding. Those plant communities provide the camouflage patterns the hare needs. The open landscapes it maintains through grazing give it the visibility to detect predators. The predators it escapes from maintain selection pressure that keeps these survival skills sharp. The system self-reinforces at every level. Human activity disrupted these ancient connections. Modern agriculture removed the habitat mosaic that hares depend on. Large, uniform fields lack the diversity of cover and food sources. Hedgerow removal eliminated crucial shelter. Chemical use reduced plant variety. The hare's flexible survival system, so effective across natural environments, struggles against landscape simplification. Yet where conservation efforts restore habitat elements, hares return. The species hasn't lost its abilities, it simply needs the right conditions to apply them. This resilience suggests hope. The same behavioral flexibility that allows hares to thrive from Spain to Scandinavia can help them adapt to human-modified landscapes if we provide the necessary components. The hare reminds us that survival is never about single traits. It's about systems, about connections, about how physical adaptations, behavioral choices, and environmental conditions weave together into functional wholes. Every animal exists within such a web. The hare's web is simply more visible, more documented, more remarkable in its sophistication. That observation in the Scottish Highlands revealed something profound, not just that hares can freeze effectively, but that they represent millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Every behavior we discussed, from ear positioning to silent steps to zigzag running, emerged through countless generations of selection. The hares that made slightly better choices survived more often. Their descendants inherited those tendencies. Over time, the species became what we see today. The mystery isn't really solved. We understand the mechanisms now, the physiology of freezing, the physics of sound detection, the biomechanics of rapid direction changes. But understanding how something works doesn't diminish its wonder. If anything, knowing the details makes the hare's survival system more impressive, not less. The invisible hare remains invisible by choice, by adaptation, by embodying connection itself.